Welcome back to Dr. Skull Games, and this is the first in my new series, Quick Games. Here we're going to try to, in about 5 minutes, examine a GM game. Today we're going to go over Ljubojevic versus Karpov from 1977. I'm going to go through quickly through most of the moves, but we're going to stop and try to get 3 key takeaways or so. So this is Karpov has the black pieces. We see in English, this is pretty much the main line according to the Lee Chess database. I'm not an English expert, but we're just developing our pieces. Everything looks fine and normal. We have a capture here. And this is where we have our first moment that seemed interesting to me, where we have a big opportunity. White can choose to transform this position into either a hanging pawn structure or an IQP, or an isolated queen pawn structure. White chooses to do neither. I found that to be a little interesting. I'm not sure how relevant it is, but I find it personally interesting. And then now we get to this very weird point in the game. This is one of the big takeaways for me. This knight, that is, by the way, very well positioned here to control some key squares, suddenly goes on a little journey. Black continues to develop normally, and white is just moving this knight to bizarre squares. Another takeaway for me was when I saw this move, I thought, what is Karpov doing? Clearly, the E file is going to open, as it is open, halfway open. The C file is likely to halfway open. Why the heck are we doubling behind this pawn? And as we'll see in a bit, black has the opportunity to transform this into an IQP that is heavily supported. All right. White makes another kind of bizarre move, possibly with the intention of moving the knight several more times. So we have some bizarre choices here. I love this move, putting our rook on the file. The computer says that we should take already and transform the position, but black does here. So essentially, this is an isolated queen pawn position. If you're not aware of how these work very well, it's a really critical position in chess. And the bottom line is this. If this pawn is easily blockaded, especially if we can stick a knight here, because it would still be able to control a bunch of squares, and we can attack this pawn and call it a weakness, then black is in trouble. And black has this very weak pawn that's going to be hard to defend. Additionally, if white can trade off all the pieces, this pawn will probably fall in an endgame. However, this can be an especially strong pawn in a middle game. As we can see, it controls quite a few squares and can help an attack. And if it can move forward one, it can control all these squares, free up this guy, and help in an attack. And as we can see, it's going to be challenging for white to get a knight here. White has this knight off in La La Land, and black is actually set up to have a pretty good IQP structure. All right, and this is really another key moment, right? Is we get to chase away the one blockader. So whenever we want, we can just push, and in fact, we do. White initiates a couple of trades here, and we go into sort of this, not quite endgame because the queens are still on the board, but an interesting moment where suddenly the king looks a little bit vulnerable. He still has this knight who's off in the middle of nowhere. This knight is going to get to go to here and be quite aggressively placed very soon. And black's IQP, their isolated queen pawn, is looking more like a strength than a weakness. It's hard to stop this. If nothing else, you can just push it forward and trade it off at his convenience. So white makes some moves. Karpov indeed makes his knight better. And here we go. This knight again. This is the what? 1, 2, 3, 4th time this knight is moved, and it's here. 4 moves to get your knight to h2. That feels like a problem to me. h5 comes. We're sort of softening up this king. Here we finally say IQP, it's done its job. And guess what? Look what happens. We're going to transform this into black having a bunch of pieces on the attack. White attacks the knight. We get a little trade here. This is a very clever move. Black could have gone here first to back this guy up. But instead he says, no, I would rather have my queen in an aggressive spot than back him up. And now we can see black is really kind of the aggressor here, right? Like black's going to win this pawn. Black can push this. Black can come in here. Like, black has some serious ideas here for attacking. And black does indeed attack, weakens this pawn structure. And this is another big takeaway for me, and this is what makes Karpov's games so instructive. When I was going over this game, I was looking for the mate desperately. Where's the checkmate? The checkmate has to be here. But Karpov shows time and time again, there's not necessarily a checkmate. We're fine. This pawn is severely weakened. We're going to be able to take that. All we really need to do now is transfer our energy to winning this pawn, and then we've got a winning endgame. So he backs the queen out. Again, I was still looking for the checkmate. We're just improving our pieces. This guy comes down. He takes. And now we're just, again, look, this knight. Was this the sixth move for this knight? What are we doing? And then this trades down to a bizarre ending indeed, where Ljubojevic trades off their queen for two pieces. But look at this. The knight is continuing his prowl. And if black is not careful, there's actually a checkmate here. We'll go forward a little bit. Black's obviously winning, right? But there's some cute checkmating stuff here. White has ideas of bringing this knight in. So, for example, if black takes here, let's see, is that where it is? We've got, yeah, I mean, this is just checkmate, right? So he can't do that, and this knight is well positioned to go in to like here and help some checkmates as well. So we've got all kinds of interesting stuff with this knight. White has to be kind of careful. If black had just taken this pawn, in fact, this is going to be mate. Check. Goes here. Gets mated. That's mate. So very interesting that white is fighting still with their knight, but eventually black overcomes all this and says, I'm just going to take everything and win the game. But did have to be careful. And then here's the last move because this pawn is going to queen out. So it took us 7.5 minutes. What are our takeaways? My big takeaways were several. First, moving your knight randomly is a bad idea, even in a close position. Taking 6 moves to move a knight around and not get anywhere is a bad idea. Number 2, hanging pawns, isolated queen pawn structures. It's important to know them. I get scared when it's like, ooh, it's an IQP. Will I be able to defend it? Will I not? It's something really important to study. And then the last one is this idea of just because you're on the attack doesn't mean it has to end in mate, right? You can pull out, reorganize, take different advantages that you've created as part of your attack. Attacks do not have to end in mate. So that is Ljubojevic against Karpov from 1977. I hope this was fruitful for you, and I'll see you all next time on Dr. Skull Games.